So I feel like today's class is very much going to resonate. At least it resonates with me. So hopefully it will resonate for others as well on some level. On what the word Eicha means. The word now it sounds like it's a little bit of a depressing, the book of Lamentations, the book that was written by Jeremiah, the book of Eicha, and on this Shabbat we connect very much to a transformative energy that happens on this Shabbat. It happens to be the 9th of Av, but we don't fast on this 9th of Av. In fact, we do the opposite. We very much embrace joy. We embrace eating, feasting, drinking, joyous, which connotes really the transformative, the energy which is there. That Shabbat just really shows that and releases that for us to be, for it to be palpable for us on a personal level. So what's unique about this Shabbat and Sunday basically is that our sages tell us that there's 3 places in the Torah itself that the word Eicha is used. So the book of Lamentations, the book written by Jeremiah, is a very kind of like intense book. It's a sad kind of a book, which talks about the destruction of the temple, and it talks about all the warnings, and it talks about basically it's what we read on Tisha B'Av. It's intense, right? It's heavy, you could say. And that's obviously the book of the Eicha that we know of. But in the Haftarah that we read about in this week's in this week's Torah portion, which is the Haftarah of Yeshaya Hanavi, Isaiah, right? Isaiah also uses the word Eicha, right? So Isaiah uses the word Eicha. I'm going to quote it in a second. And then we've got a third great individual, right? So we've got Jeremiah that uses the word Eicha. We've got Isaiah, Yeshaya, that uses the word Eicha. We're going to delve into what exactly that we're saying. I just want to give you the overview. And then we've got Moses. We've got Moshe that says Eicha in our Parsha Dvarim, right? So we've got these 3 leaders, incredible leaders at very different times in history that use this word Eicha, okay? So what's the translation of the word Eicha? Okay, any other variations of that? Eicha, that's pretty, like, it's pretty good, pretty spot on there. But there's variations of it. Eicha is when you say, how is it? How is it possible? And that's what Jeremiah laments. Eicha haita badad, right? How was it that Jerusalem, that was known as being this incredible bastion of goodness to the entire world, it was this place, it was the epitome of grandeur, and it totally transformed to being to really being downgraded on the lowliest level, on the worst level. So Eicha comes from the word, how is it possible? We could we could turn that off. What? Here, it's not. You sure?
You've been out right.
You sure? You wanna come around? Yeah. Okay. Staying out of it. So the word Eicha, going back to that translation, how are you? Welcome. So the word Eicha is how is it? And that's the word that of basically of comparing. How is it possible? So these 3 greats use the word Eicha, but before that, there's a variation of the word Eicha in the first place in the Torah. And so what I'm quoting from now is probably one of like a new favorite book of mine that I recently got super into. And it's Pri Tzaddik from Tzaddik Cohen of Lublin. Spectacular, incredibly deep, beautiful concepts that he shares. So he does share in general that whenever we want to know a concept in Torah, we want to go back to the first place that it's written. So in the first place that it's written, that's when we have an inkling, we have a clue as to what the inner reason, what the inner translation of words are. Because, and he says that everything which is closer to the origin, which is closer to that, closer up, we could say, to the table, has much more of what it's drawing from, as opposed to if it's second or if it's second and third and fourth chapter, you're already drawing from the first level of what we call conception of awareness, which is there on that level. So the first place in the Torah that the word Eicha is used, not exactly in the word Eicha, is the word Ayeka. Okay, that word of Ayeka is the most resounding word in history. It's the most resounding word in history, where Adam basically has to show up and take accounting of himself. And he's failed. He failed at the task of guarding paradise. He had to do just one thing: just pay attention. Just don't sleep on the job. Don't blame others for it. Don't do what you got to do. Easy. Just watch this for an hour. The Talmud says it was like a very short amount of time. It was actually 3 hours or so. Just watch this. And he's entrusted to le'ovda ve'lishomra, to guard paradise. What does that mean, to guard paradise? Very, very deep idea, and we'll hopefully touch on that. But after failing that task, Adam now has to face up to the ultimate. And he's asked by God the most resounding question in the world. Ayeka, where are you? And our sages tell us, like, woe is that question? God knows everything. Like, God doesn't know where he is. Like, you can't hide from God. Like, it's obvious. God knows everything. So what does that mean? Ayeka. So Rashi says, and certain of the commentaries say, that he didn't want to scare him off too much. So he wanted to say, likanesimo bidvarim, like to go into like a little bit of like small talk, like, hey, what's going on? Hayeka. But no. According to the Zohar and according to the Hasidut and according to the deeper aspects of Torah, God resounded this question, and this question was felt throughout all of the worlds, all of the spiritual worlds, all the way down to this physical world, echoing and very much putting Adam in the center of it all. He cannot hide. And that feeling of shame, that feeling of embarrassment, that feeling of being exposed, and you can't hide. Ayeka. And that's the first place in the Torah that we have the variation of the word Eicha. Ayeka. Where are you? Who are you? What is going on? Right? So let's jump into what the Midrash says, that there are three that had the prophecy of Eicha. Again, literally, welcome. There are three that had the prophecy of Eicha, and those were, let's start off with Moshe. So he had the prophecy And it says about him, the Midrash says that Moshe saw their kvodam v'shalvatam. He saw them in their grandeur and in their glory, in their relaxation, you could say. The state of the what is called the Dor De'ah, the nation, the generation of De'ah. Like we have no concept of what that means and what type of heightened awareness and realization this generation had, drinking from the water of Miriam, eating from the manna, being taught directly by the greatest of the greatest teachers ever, in a way that's not an intellectual way of learning, in a way which is downloading and experiential learning. And they were called the Dor De'ah. They had the Da'at being just downloading deep information of the entire universe. And so Moshe saw them, and he says about them, Eicha Levadi. So he tried, by doing so, by saying Eicha, what did he really try to do? He tried to raise them up by saying to them that you're compared to the stars, and you're even higher than the stars. And since you're so great, so incredibly high, so incredibly great, don't blemish that. Don't lose that. Maintain that level of connection. Don't lose that. Don't get off that horse. You're on that incredible train. You're on a connection. Don't lose it. Stay there. Maintain that. Maintain your good path. Don't get swayed by all types of things that are going to come in your way, all types of clickbait that's happening, and this is going on, and this person is saying that about, and that's happening, and that's in the news. And stick to your consciousness, stick to where you're really at. You're incredibly connected as much as the stars. Don't lose that. And that's what Moshe was saying. Eicha ocha levadi. And he was telling them, he was rebuking them, he was telling them, please, my holy children, because he was like a father to them, my holy children, please don't lose where you're at. You're so incredibly blessed to be here on this level, and you're about to enter the land. You're going to enter the land very soon. Stay with that consciousness. You're not going to have any troubles. Nothing's going to come in your way. You're worried about this nation. No, you're going to be riding high. It's like everything's going to be taken care of. You need money, that's going to happen. You need sustenance, that's happening. Your children, everything is going to fall into place. Just stay on the right path. And that's what Moshe was saying. That's the first Eicha. Okay. Second Eicha is Isaiah, Yeshaya. He saw them in their folly, because remember, who came before, Isaiah or Jeremiah? Yeshaya or Yirmiyah? So Yeshaya came before. Yeshaya was during the first temple, in the midst of the first temple period. They did have a little bit of an overlap, but it got really bad by Jeremiah's time, where Jeremiah, if you read the book of Jeremiah, all these kings are like insane. They're doing like crazy things and just being reckless and Yirmiyahu, Jeremiah is pretty much like, are you guys insane? Are you guys nuts? Why don't you wisen up? And they're all drinking the same Kool-Aid, the same whatever it is and they're like, no, the pagan gods are going to save us. These other, the king of Babylonia, he's not going to come to us. And they're listening to foreign prophets who are coming along, and they're just giving their prophecies. And Jeremiah has it pretty bad, but Isaiah doesn't have it so bad. But he still has like the son of the king, basically, like all drunk and like on the floor, like in their throw up, Yeah, it happens. It happens to the best of us. And I've been there. I'll admit that right now. It's not pretty, but That's life, and you wisen up. But in Purim, yeah, definitely, yeah. Or your wife wisens you up. That's the one. So Isaiah, what does he say? He sees the children, the king, the prince, there on the floor with all the just like there, like doing all this stuff. And he says to them, Eicha lezona kirya ne'emana. How is it that they've become that the son of the king or the daughter of the king are not staying faithful? And they're just doing like just reckless things. So he says, you're on such an amazing level. You're on such a high level. Moshe just said it to them. Like you're riding high. You're literally in the clouds. They were in the clouds, surrounded by clouds. You were there. You were so high. And what happened to you? You went into the land, and then what? What happened to you? There was this king, had that king. You had this happening to you. It's like going throughout Jewish history. It's like a conversation that the prophets have, not just with the individuals of that generation, with the soul of the Jewish people, the entire soul of the collective consciousness, the collective soul of the Jewish people. Moshe is talking to a certain place to the Jewish people, the collective soul. Isaiah is talking to the collective, and he's saying, where are you? What happened? Why didn't you stay on the path? All you had to do, you had like great mentors, you had great things, but you fell off the horse, you fell off the path, you fell down, and you're drunk, and you're barfing and spewing disgusting things all over. Like, why is that? Eicha, how is that possible? And then the third Eicha is Jeremiah. Jeremiah saw them literally at the end. They were already benivulam. It says after they're already punished. They already got so now the prince gets on the floor and he's drunk and everything like that, but he gets back up and the father's like, please just don't embarrass me like that again. But then it happens a second time, it happens a third time. Finally, like something has to change over here, and God's ways are always merciful, but it feels harsh. It's not a comfortable drop. It's not a comfortable, it's not comfortable. And that's where Jeremiah comes in, and he sees the people there after the destruction, because he's there. And afterwards, they all come to him. They're like, Jeremiah, you were right. Please help us, get us back on track, get us back. And Jeremiah was like, what could I do for you, my children? Like, what? Like, I told you, I have for all these years, 40 years, I'm like telling you stuff. I'm telling you over and over. And like, now he saw them there, and he says, Eicha. He says, Eicha yashva badad, you're sitting there all alone. You got whipped. You got crushed. You got really, really punished. You got it really bad. And from that level, says that from that level of Eicha, the only way out is up. The only way up is not, you can't go back to the clouds. You can't go back to what was. You could only restart everything anew. And so I want to talk about this today, about this concept of these three stages that many of us and many people throughout history, have always compared themselves to previous generations. That generation, they were like this. That generation, they were like that. And we could look at ourselves and the generation and the current state we could say that we're in. We could say, well, which Eicha do I fit into? Am I like Moses? Not me personally. Am I like Isaiah? I've been there. Am I like Jeremiah? That actually sounds the most correct. Like being in the state of feeling the galut, feeling the exile, feeling the that pain and that darkness, that space of darkness. And specifically in that pain and darkness is where we make the true transformation, where really things happen. When things were incredibly high, great. You're a good boy, you're a good girl, you're a special individual. You got all A's, congratulations. You got hundreds, you got 1,600 on your SAT. Wow, you got into this college, amazing, you are great. Life is going to be perfect for you. Not, right? You go into Isaiah mode. Eicha, what's going on for me in my life right now? I experiment and I fall. And I often don't learn. And I try to evade any pain, as much pain as possible, and running away from it. But the third level of Eicha is the level of Jeremiah. Of this is where it says on this day of Tisha B'Av, the worst day externally, it says that this is the very day that Mashiach is born. On Tisha B'Av is when Mashiach is born. On the most intense, darkest place and space that we're ever in is where the greatest transformation truly happens. Say that again.
I heard the idea that the deepest stuff, like the deepest reflection of God's highest light.
So that's exactly where I want to go to next. So that relates, these three ayekas relate to, or echas, sorry, relate to the first place in the Torah where echa is used, or a similarity to echa, and that is ayeka. Where are you? What's that question? Going back to that question of God in paradise. What is he asking really? God is asking, where are you? He's really saying, I want you. I want who you really are. I want your inner core. That's what God is really saying. I don't want your SAT scores necessarily, right? It's not bad to have them for sure, or getting into the best for sure. Like those are all great, but those are also sometimes ways of evading or proving things, of becoming something, of being something. And saying, I'm being something. And God is like, well, that's tremendous. That's great. I'm very proud of you. But that's not really you. Who are you like really at the core? And the second level is the Isaiah level, which is, we make all of the mistakes. We get into that place of darkness, and then we associate that darkness as being part of us. I'm not good enough. I've done this and I've done that. I've laid there on the floor with puke. Like, how could I be a good person? How could I be like a respectable person if that has happened to me in my life? I've done this. How could I ever recoup that? How could I ever be something? And constantly haunted by the darkness, by those dark places and secrets that we hold on to, and we associate, and when we think and we think is and we think is us. I'm gonna take that as a water break. Thank you, Hashem. So I'd like to do like a little meditation, if that's okay. If you get it right, feel free to like, not just yet, but feel free to keep your eyes open or closed. I feel like I just want to finish this concept over here. The connection of Eicha to the lowest level of being connected to that place of after the punishment, after the pain of being in this hurt, right? And being absolutely, right, distraught. Within that space is where the true transformation happens. And so there's like to just share like a short story, which I feel is a very, very powerful story, which once again, regarding comparing ourselves, because when we're in a certain state, we try to compare ourselves to where I was or where I should be or where another generation was, and we compare ourselves to that. And what's asked of us is not to compare ourselves to anything else but ourselves. And that's really the question of Eicha. Don't compare yourself to any other time in history. No other time in history was like this time in history. 2022, August, currently, and there's never been individuals such as you, right here, right now, in this space, in this moment. Never. It's a fact. But your mind will say, well, there's other greater people and throughout time, and you know, and there are so many things that are going on in life, and there's so many crazy things that are happening in the news, and etc., etc. But this is the only place that there is. It's like you're the only juncture that there is. And that's the big question of Eicha. And that's the ultimate question of Eicha. It's what is asked and what is called of you is to figure out not how to compare yourself. I wish I was something else, but how to redefine yourself. And you don't even have to define yourself. So there's a story about one of the students of the Hasidim of the Rebbe of Chortkov, who was the son of the Ruzhner, a very mystical and holy Rebbe, that the student started to go veer off the path of Judaism, of Torah, etc. And very quickly, like, everything became permissible, lived with someone that wasn't from the faith and was not keeping any of the laws, and etc. So one day the Rebbe in his abode, in his Beit Midrash, says, I want to go visit Moshe, whatever his name was. I want to go and visit him. And all the students are like, what? Uh-oh, like, does the Rebbe not know? So they're like, Rebbe, you know, he kind of is like, maybe you're not aware what's going on, but we've heard stuff, right? There's, you know, there's news, you know, you got to stay in the loop, you know, there's news, even in the shtetls, keep things exciting. You know, what are people going to talk about? So you didn't hear about what went on with Moshe or Shmerel and whatever, you know, this. So the Rebbe said, I know. I just want to go visit him. So they go to the town that he was in. The Rebbe takes his silver walking stick and he knocks on the door, and the former student opens up, not looking too respectable or as he did in the past, probably not wearing a shirt, whatever it was. And he was like, Rebbe, I can't believe you're he's like, well, aren't you going to invite me? And he just basically invites himself. He goes into the house, and he sits down, and the students sits across from the Rebbe. They don't say anything to each other. The Rebbe's just looking, and the student is just feeling so uncomfortable. Like he wants to run away, but he can't run away. It's his house. And he feels so uncomfortable in his own skin and his own body. Like the Rebbe's loving, but in eyes, gazed every so often at him, and he felt and he starts bawling. He starts crying, bubbling up inside, up to the point that he couldn't hold it anymore. And everything just came out. Everything just came out, like years and years and years of penting up all of these emotions, all these running away and comparing and darkness and shame were all coming up to the gaze of his Rebbe. And the student says, Rebbe, what do I do now? He was that Eicha. Jeremiah saw them there at that moment, like Jeremiah staring at the people. And they're saying, Rebbe, what do I do now? The Beis HaMikdash has been destroyed. Everything's gone. What happens now? What do I do now? And I said, Rebbe, I want to go back into the door. That's what he said. And the Rebbe said, no, you can't. You have to go through a different door. You can't go back to the same door. That door is not available for you now. You need to go through a different door. And that's your door. What was he telling him there? He was telling him that the door to yourself is not the old door of who you were. And only if I go back to that version of me, or that vision of me, that perfect vision of me, or running away from the embarrassed part of me and going back to the halls of the yeshiva and being one in the same, that's not gonna cut it. That's not gonna work for you. You need to now find who you are at this moment, at this time, after experiencing what you've experienced. Hayeka. God is saying, you are here right now. Your door is available to you here and now. Stop thinking about the old door, because you're not reaching your door right now because you're thinking about another door. It's interesting that door means generation in Hebrew. So a lot of times we compare ourselves, door ledor, we compare ourselves, well, our generation, and they say the previous, the TikTok generation and the Instagram things. It's like, oh my God. Well, that's the door that we have, literally, the door of the generation. And that's the door that we have to go into. And if we're going to say, no, not this door, it's a different door, or it's the old door, then you're not connecting to reality, because this is the reality of what's going on in the world right now. And this is the situation. That's what Yirmiyahu saw. You saw this is the situation right now. This is where they're at. This is the situation. But that is that Eicha resounding of the Creator, resounding so strongly throughout all of the generations, from the Garden of Eden, throughout all of mankind, all of humanity. That sound, that question of Eicha is heard. But before we go into this little meditation, there's a story, and I would be probably remiss of not mentioning it, because we see the Alter Rebbe over here right across from us. But when the Alter Rebbe was in jail, one of his students, one of his interrogators asked him, what does it mean that God said to Adam, Eicha? And the Alter Rebbe said to him what Rashi said, and he said, no, I know that. What's the deeper reasons? So the Alter Rebbe said, when a person who is this age, and he said the interrogator's exact age, this many years, and this many days, he said, like, his exact days, said that God is asking him, where are you in your life? Where are you in your life? And the interrogator was like, okay, I got a special person over here, that I'm dealing with.
Is he a Yid?
No,
How did he know Rashi?
because he was an intellectual person. He researched, and he was a biblical, scholar, you could say. He was he was one of the top people. So
He respected his impressions?
yeah, sure. They learned all the, of course. It was pre-communism. So they in communist Russia, they completely did away with any of that, any of those books. But what does that tell us? What does that story really mean? It tells us that this many years we've lived in our life, each and every one of us, if you're 20 years old, if you're 30 or 40 or 50, 60s and 70s, 80s, 90s, whatever it is, how many days within your life, God is asking you, don't compare yourself to where you were a year ago, 2 years ago, or where you're going to be. Where are you right now? What's going on right now? Are you feeling a little tired and not with the same energy as you were when you were there? Right now, what is available for you? Right now, who are you? Right now, who are you evolving? Who are you becoming? And that's the big question. That's the question of Eicha. That's the question of Tisha B'Av. Question of Tisha B'Av is, let's not sit there on the floor and mourn and be like, oh, but basically we're sitting on the floor to hear that question. Because only when we sit on the floor, then our ears are just open. And God is saying, go through your door. Go through your door, which is happening right now. It's open. There is a door there. You just have to find it. And you have to just follow that, connect to that. So let's take a breath. So feel free to keep your eyes open or your eyes closed, whatever you feel comfortable. In our mind's eye, let us look inward, inside of that incredible being that you call you. Explore the you, that incredible mind, amazing heart, the body that God has given you, that strong, healthy, robust body, all the incredible organs which are within it, cells. And if you would look a little deeper into you, you would now feel your emotions. Those emotions are so colorful and they're so exciting and happy at certain times. And then that pendulum, we feel so down and in pain at other times. Just observe those emotions without identifying with them. And if you can, try to absorb your body and your mind without identifying with the body or the mind. There's something greater, which is enlivening you. What is that portion which is enlivening all of those parts of the you? And within the you, there's so many different personalities to the you. There's the you to your parents, the you to your friends, the you to your spouse, the you to your grandparents, the you to your teachers. There's so many different yous, and they're so different and exciting. And if just simply view all the different facets and dimensions of you as a human being. A human being has a body, has a mind, has emotions, has relationships, has emotions that take them to different highs and different lows. That's our humanity. What if the part of you which you associate as the predominant part of you is just an illusion? What if it is trying to protect something? I'm going to try to poke at that in order to bring out the greater good. What if the you is a child who is scared? that the facades that they are putting up are protecting something. And that part of us, the subconscious part of us, is doing a good job at protecting that part of us, that child. Who doesn't feel worthy and enough. Feel that pain of not feeling enough. Do not avoid the pain. Watch it and see it. Do you feel something else rising up beyond the pain and the confusion? What is that part? Yet who's watching that part? There's the divine soul, and there's the ego, called the animal soul, consciousness. And then there is the third level. There's the true you, which is able to see both parts of you. And hold space for those contradictions. That part of you, Hasidus teaches us, is called the Atzmos, the essence. That's the infinite, abundant part of ourselves. Just able to take these contradictions and dualities of being a human. What is that part of you saying? Is it saying, I am? Abundance? I am connection? I am love? I am the infinite. Eicha is that third person, that essence calling, saying, where are you? It's okay to be in the turmoil, to be in confusion. And it's so great that you have such a vast soul. So amazing. You have such capabilities in your mind and in your heart. Your body is able to do so many incredible things. Take walks in nature, do all types of work. But you are more than that. You're not limited to that. You're not limited to pleasing others by getting the good grades and by being the good person. And you're not bad for going through what you are meant to go through, even if you chose it on your own. You're meant to go through it. Remember this word, Eicha, reverberating, resounding on a daily level, on a moment-to-moment level, when you center back to it. Let's count from 1 to 3 and gently open up our eyes. 1 and 2 and 3. Welcome to this world. All right, my friends. God bless. Eicha. Let's may we find our door, that incredible door, that incredible generation that we're in, which is a generation of Mashiach, generation of Geula. Find that Geula inside, and it will come on the outside as well. Mashiach now.